Hello and welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Liz and today is True Crime Tuesday. I just want to take a quick moment and wish you all a very happy holidays or whatever you do celebrate wherever you are. I hope you have had or are having a fantastic season. For those of you who celebrated Christmas, as me and my family did, Merry Christmas! I hope Santa brought you everything that you wanted. I learned doing my research for this episode that St. Nicholas is not only the patron saint of children, but also travelers, broadcasters, archers, thieves, and prostitutes.
Ho, ho, ho!
Gives a whole new meaning to that, doesn't it? Anyways, I don't know about you, but the thought of a man sneaking into your house through your chimney always creeped me out just a little bit, but I always kind of went with it as a kid because, he's coming in to bring me presents, right? So I thought it would be fun to take a look at some people who thought it would be a good idea to use the chimney as points of entry for different reasons and how that went for them. We're going to look at 6 different stories today, and I will start by putting our contenders, if you will, photos up here. As you can see from the pictures that I do have, they all look quite different, but what they do have in common is that they all at some point thought, I'm going to get into that building through that there chimney. We're going to start by meeting contestant number 1, or Ranaldo Jack. Ranaldo was 17 years old, but already had a few run-ins with the police and was apparently looking to continue towards a life of crime. Now, in November of 2011, Mr. Jack had decided that he was going to rob a house in his neighborhood in Norcross, Georgia. Must have had a thing about breaking windows, though, because he decided the easiest way to get into this house was to slide right in Santa style. He waited until about 3 a.m. when the homeowner was at work and then started his descent into the chimney. Now let's meet contestant number 2, or Dr. Jacquelyn Kortarac. Apologize about the name if it's incorrect. That's right, one of our contestants is a doctor, and not only that, she was actually a certified genius with an IQ of 170. That's freaking impressive. I remember I was thinking I was all cool in elementary school when I was pulled for a genius testing, and then I found out I wasn't one. Yay! I guess it was nice to be considered, but yeah. We have this beautiful genius doctor from Southern California, yet she still gets herself stuck in a chimney. Dr. Jacquelyn Kortarac was involved in an on-again, off-again relationship with her boyfriend, and they had just gotten into yet another argument. Witnesses say that she had had a few drinks with her dinner that night, but it was unclear exactly what led her to do what she did next. Apparently, her boyfriend fled the house when she was trying to break in to his back door with a shovel. When she was unsuccessful, she found a ladder and she was able to climb up to the top of the roof and pull the metal grate off of the chimney. At this point, she stuck her feet in and started down. Now, let's meet Mr. Willis, our contestant number 3. Mr. Willis decided that he was going to rob Miss Ross, who was in her cabin in the woods of North Carolina at that time. Miss Ross lived in a log cabin in the woods, and because of this, it was fairly easy for Mr. Willis to get to where he thought he could just climb right into the cabin. The chimney itself was made mostly of logs and sticks, so he moved the boards that were covering the top part of the chimney and swung his legs in. Contestant number 4 is Lauren Fox. Lauren Fox was 20 years old and an inspiring young musician and burglar, and she had an idea. She found a house where the occupants only checked in about every 3 days or so, so it would be the perfect one to hit. She was also a pretty small girl, so she thought that with a chimney the size of the one on this house, it would be extremely easy for her to just slide on down, and then she would have the whole house to herself. She managed to get up to the top of the roof and into the little opening of the chimney and was surprised at how easy that was, and then she just let herself drop down. And for contestant number 5, let's meet Cody Cadwell, a 19-year-old California resident. He decided to break into a house through the chimney while the owner was away on a Friday night. After climbing up the roof and assessing the situation, he decided it might be a tight fit, but he could probably do it. So he started down the chimney. And we're coming back to sunny California for contestant number 6. And I will say it seemed like there was a disproportionate amount of California cases when it came to chimney B&Es. I'm wondering if there is some sort of California woman that is like Florida man's sister or lost cousin. Is there a thing like that? Soulmate? Anyhow, let's meet Genoveva Nuenez Figueroa. Genoveva, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Beautiful name, I think. She found someone online that she really enjoyed spending time with. Unfortunately for her, the feeling did not end up remaining mutual, and the man that she was so hopeful about ended their brief courtship after a few dates. Unfortunately for him, he had brought in Genoveva to his home at some point because she decided that she wasn't about to take no for an answer. At least she was going to give it one more attempt to try and convince him that they were good for one another, and he was going to listen. When he went and answered the door, she figured that she would just, slide down the chimney, and that would probably get his attention. So she made it to the top of the roof, and unlike our other 5 contestants, Genoveva decided to go head first down the chimney. I don't even know, but guys, she wasn't the only California woman to attempt to go head first down a chimney. So I really think I'm onto something with this. Anyhow, Genoveva attempts to lower herself down the chimney head first, and I am still trying to wrap my head around that. So what happens to our 6 contestants who at this point are either stuck, about to be stuck, or at the bottom of a chimney? Let's start by talking a little bit about chimneys. Many people don't realize that it's not just a straight shot to the bottom, even if you remove whatever grates they have at the top to keep animals and apparently people from falling in. So as it goes down, many of the openings get smaller, and there are sometimes different levels, smoke shelves and throats, as this picture demonstrates, that even if you did make it down the first part of it, it would ultimately be impossible to get through the end in many cases. Not to mention, many homeowners will seal off the bottom of their chimneys if they don't use them, so it could literally be a dead end. So when people die in a chimney, sometimes it's from injuries or dehydration, but the most common way is actually asphyxiation. This is because when you get stuck in a small space like this, you start to struggle. You can actually wedge yourself further, and since your lungs need room to expand, the more you get stuck, the less room they have to do so until you find yourself unable to breathe. It must be absolutely horrifying. So what happened when our 6 contestants made or attempted to make their descent down someone's chimney? Let's start out with contestant number 3, Mr. Willis, because he was the only successful contestant that we did have, and the case that surrounded his incident set the precedent for including entry by chimney under what is considered by law to be classified as a B&E, or breaking and entering. So Mr. Willis was able to get into Mrs. Ross's log cabin because of the way that the chimney was built. It only stood a little under 6 feet tall and was made with logs and sticks. So once Mr. Willis removed the boards covering the top of the chimney, he was able to get in pretty easily. Once inside, the court records state that Mrs. Ross's meat, consisting of several pieces of bacon, was forcibly taken from her. This made me chuckle a little until I scanned to the top of the document and saw that Mr. Willis was a slave. So it took kind of a little bit of a dark turn. Nonetheless, Mr. Willis did survive and was our only contestant to successfully enter a residence through the chimney. Let's find out what happened to our other 5 contestants. Contestant number 1, or Ranaldo Jack, started sliding down his chimney, not his chimney, his target's chimney, and shortly into his descent, he realizes he's not going to fit all the way down. So he attempts to lift himself back up, but with no luck there. Now he's getting nervous because he can't go up or down. This is a pretty small space. So panicking, Ranaldo starts to yell out, hoping that someone will hear his cries and actually pay attention to them enough to figure out what is going on. Luckily, his persistence did pay off because at around 1:30 the next afternoon, a neighbor heard Ranaldo yelling for help and was able to get a response team there. While they were waiting, another neighbor asked Ranaldo what he was doing in there, to which he responded, "I'm stupid." Once rescued, Ranaldo attempted to give a fake name to the police, but one of them recognized him from a prior arrest and was able to arrest him again with the correct name because of that. So our young thief Ranaldo made it out alive with not too much injuries besides his ego. What about our young thief in Texas, Lauren Fox, or contestant number 4? Lauren apparently dropped right down after she got herself inside, and it was a way longer drop than she had anticipated, but for the moment she was okay. But she was definitely stuck, and after realizing that she wasn't going to be able to get herself out of there, she shrugged and pulled out her phone. She was our only contestant who was either smart enough to keep her phone on her or got stuck in a position where she did have access to it. Either way, she was able to call 911, then pretended that it was her house, but was unable to give them the address. Here is a quick clip from that call.
This is Houston Fire and Medical.
I'm like inside of the chimney. Like, I didn't look like a far drop, but it was really far. Yeah, I'm definitely stuck in my own chimney. I can't get out.
And you don't know an address at all?
No, it's a white brick house. There's palm trees in front. Nice, but I'm stuck in that chimney. I feel like Santa Claus.
So they did have to bust her out of the chimney, and it was determined that it was not her home, but she tried to tell them that she was just looking to get warm and then got stuck. Maybe this would have worked, but she was also being looked at for a different type of B&E from a few weeks earlier, so she was ultimately arrested for this one as well. Our final young thief, Cody Cadwell, or contestant number 5, thought he had things figured out by attempting to shimmy on down a chimney while the owner of this property wasn't home. But just like the other 2 young thieves that we just mentioned, he soon got stuck on his way down and couldn't make his way up again either. Luckily, he still could breathe, so he was just kind of waiting out the situation. It was a chilly Fresno evening, but Cody managed to just kind of stay put with the hope that when the homeowner got back, at least he could call to have him rescued, and he could just deal with the aftermath later. So later the next day, he got a little hopeful when he heard some noises, but that hope soon turned to terror when he realized that those noises, then heat, smell, and smoke, were the result of the house's owner lighting a fire in their fireplace. Cody started screaming at the top of his lungs at that point, and as he did so, the smoke poured right on into them. Luckily, the homeowner did hear him, put out the fire, and called the police. When the rescuers got there, he was still responsive, so they got to work trying to rescue him. They had to smash some of the wall to get to him, and when they finally did, unfortunately, he had passed away at that point. Ultimately, it was ruled that smoke inhalation and thermal burns were what killed him. So ultimately, 3 out of 4 of our burglars ended up surviving, which is fortunate for them given the circumstances that they got themselves into. So what will happen to our 2 love-crazed ladies? Let's start with contestant number 6, or Miss Genoveva Nuenez Figueroa. Apologize if I'm getting your name wrong. She is our most daring, perhaps in my opinion, for the headfirst attempt down the chimney to talk some sense into the man she wanted. Luckily for her, she didn't do some crazy dive straight down like I probably would be afraid of. She did get herself nice and wedged in there though. So she started yelling and crying, and the police were called, and they ended up bringing the rescue services. When they arrived, Genoveva was still alive. They ended up using dish soap to slick up the chimney, and after having to dismantle part of it, they were able to pull her out, and she was still alive, and amazingly with no major injuries. The man whose house she broke into did not want to be identified, but stated, before you have somebody come in your house, really check them out. Really give it some time before you let somebody in, because they might want to stay. Lesson learned, I hope. I hope Genoveva learned some valuable lessons from this as well. Now let's find out what happened to Dr. Jacquelyn Kortarac, or contestant number 2. Jacquelyn had found herself in a similar predicament to Genoveva. She was going to talk to her partner whether he wanted her to or not, and she wasn't able to get into his house through the doors and the windows, so let's see if the chimney will work. She chose the feet first approach, but unfortunately for her, when she hit that part of the chimney where it starts getting slimmer, she found herself stuck as well. And to add to her misfortunes, when she was attempting to break in through the back door with a shovel, her on-again, off-again boyfriend just left because he didn't want to deal with it that night, and he was hoping that she would just go away. To make things even worse, if that's possible, he was leaving for Europe the next day. So he did, without checking on Jacquelyn, probably hoping she would just cool down while he was abroad and either they could fix things or just leave each other alone when he got home. He did have fish in his house though, so he had made arrangements for a house sitter to come in and check on his house and feed his fish while he was away. When they got to the house, they were met with a extremely unpleasant smell, so much so that they were prompted to investigate, and when they did, they discovered poor Dr. Jacquelyn beginning to decompose at this point in the chimney. It took around 5 hours for firefighters to extract her body. Her partner ultimately did not want to comment on the manner on which she passed and encourages everyone to instead focus on the good that she did with her life. In my opinion, that's pretty classy. And that's going to do it. But as always, let's try to end today on a more positive note. So when looking for today's stories, I was looking for a decent mix of people, and I think I kind of found one, especially thanks to poor Dr. Jacquelyn. Although honestly, when I was first putting this episode together, I was thinking that someone who committed some sort of murder by gaining entrance through the chimney would be cool to include in the mix, but I could not find an example of any such crime, so that's a good thing. I mean, that's not to say that it hasn't happened. I'm still a somewhat amateur researcher, but if anyone does know of such a case, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. And I'm going to leave you with just one more story before we go. It was a beautiful day in Clearwater, Florida, and 8-year-old Isabella was feeling adventurous. The house next to her was vacant at the moment and perfect for climbing. Isabella managed to climb up to the roof without being noticed and peered down into the chimney. Whether she lost her balance or climbed inside is unclear, but she became stuck at the bottom of the chimney. Unfortunately, this chimney was sealed off at the bottom, so there was literally no way even for this small child to exit. So she was discovered and rescuers were called, and they spent about only a half hour to carefully chip away the bricks at the bottom to make a hole to get Isabella out without harming her. They ended up being successful, and thanks to their efforts, Isabella made it out with only a few scratches. Okay, guys, that's going to do it. Don't go trying to break into people's houses using the chimney. Please take a lesson from our contestants today. Usually does not end well. Until I see you guys again, please stay safe out there. I hope you have an excellent start to your new year. Bye!